Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of the Red Chair Knits podcast. My name is Colleen, and as always, I am coming to you today from my red knitting chair here in my home in Pennsylvania. It is May 3rd, 2017. It's a Wednesday evening. I'm not used to recording in the middle of the week or in the evening, so I apologize if the light is a little off. Also, to my returning viewers, I'm so sorry that it's been 2 months since my last podcast. As I mentioned in my last podcast, this is my study period for my medical licensing exam, which I will be taking the day after tomorrow. So I have been studying for that pretty much nonstop since my last podcast. And I guess the time kind of got away from me. But I'm back. So thank you for coming back. And for those of you who are new, welcome. None of that affected you at all because you hadn't seen a previous episode. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Colleen Diane 12. And if it wasn't already obvious from the description, I guess I should clarify. This is a knitting, crochet, all things yarny goodness podcast. And I don't have a ton to show you in terms of finished objects or works in progress, at least given how long it's been since my last podcast. You would think in almost 2 months I would have finished a couple more things. But I actually have only one finished object to show, and that is this. And I don't think I even had this cast on at my last podcast, but this beautiful shawl is, it's pronounced, I think, Fola. I will certainly put it at the bottom. This is a design by Ruth of the Knitterarium podcast. And this is my entry into the second, chapter of her year-long knit-along, The Year of You. And I knit this. Let me see if I can put this on. I mean, I'm sure I can put it on, but you know what I mean. I knit this out of On the Round in the colorway Don't Be Coy from her signature sock base. No. I think this, I don't remember which base this was. I think it might have been the one that's 100% merino, which I think is her everyday fingering base. I will put that at the bottom as well. I'm doing this without show notes today, so we're going to test my memory a little bit. And I really wish I had taken a picture of this shawl pre-blocking, because blocking did incredible things for this. I'm a big fan of blocking in general, but this one really came alive when I blocked it. The yarn stretched out, got a lot softer. This mesh lacework with the beads really opened up. And I actually think if I had proper blocking equipment, like wires and more pins than I currently have, I probably could have blocked it even more aggressively. And when I finally get around to getting blocking wires, I will probably reblock this even more aggressively because you can see, the mesh can still open up quite a bit more. So I loved this pattern. It was so easy to memorize. I think it repeats a couple of rows on the increase side. I think it's a 4-row pattern, and then repeats starting from it's end to end. I did run out of yarn right at the end, which I suspected I might because I had slightly less than what the pattern said you'd need in terms of yardage. But I really, honestly, I don't think it's noticeable. At least, I mean, if I pointed it out, if I folded it in half and held it, you can see that that's a little bit shorter. But when I'm wearing it, one of those things, as my mother would say, no one will notice on a galloping horse. I say a lot of things that my mom says. Every now and then, I'm sure most of you do this as well. I stop and I'm like, I think I'm becoming mom, which sounds like it might be a bad thing, but it's not because I love my mother. She's fabulous. Anyway, that is my only finished object. I didn't finish any socks. I barely even worked on the second of my St. Patrick's Day socks, which did not get done for St. Patrick's Day. I started to cast on another pair and got a couple rows in and ripped it out because I wasn't loving the needles that I was using. I had bought some metal double points to try, and I just thought they were way too heavy for socks. So I will get back to socks probably once I am done with my test on Friday. I do have 2 other shawls in progress. I promise I do knit things other than shawls, but this episode is all about the shawls. I have what I'm calling my study break shawl, living in my Fantastic Beasts bag. No connection to the project, other than that it was the appropriate size. I am knitting another Pure Joy. I knit one of these at Christmas time for my sister and decided I was going to knit one for myself. And I bought the yarn a while ago and have just been waiting to cast it on. It's almost done, so it's a little scrunched up on the needles. This is Judy from the Kiwi Pop Studio. Her colorway, Jewels. Had to think about that for a minute. And then the complementary color for the last wedge is this silver gray, which is also one of Judy's. And I am loving this. I love how soft the yarn is. It's the same exact yarn, different colorways that I knit the one for my sister at Christmas. So I knew I was gonna love working with this. And this has been my study break shawl. So whenever I have 5 or 10 minutes that I just can't look at a book or another question anymore, I pull this out and knit a little bit on it. I wanted to start a different shawl, but I know that I like this pattern. I know that it's easy. It's not a complicated pattern. And so I wanted something that was pretty basic that I could just pull out without pulling out a pattern, pick it up and go, whether it was 5 minutes or 20 minutes that I had. And this perfectly fit the bill. So I am guessing that within the next week this will be done. This may even be done within the next day or two. On the advice of multiple people who took this exam last year, I'm not going to be doing much studying tomorrow, so I will have plenty of time to work on a little project to calm me down the day before my exam. The other thing that I have been working on since my last podcast is continuing to plug away a little bit on my snow melt shawl, which was a mystery knit along for the month of March from Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. I obviously didn't finish it during the mystery knit along, not even close. I do know what the finished shawl looked like. I've seen a couple of pictures on Instagram, but I've kind of kept myself away from looking at a lot of them. So as it goes along, I'm still just doing it clue by clue and seeing how it comes together. So let me grab that. The yarn is getting all twisted because apparently when I stopped, I had one ball of yarn on one side and one on the other. So I apologize that this is a little messy, but here she is. And that stitch marker is where I was when I showed this to you on my last podcast. So I've made a little bit of progress. I guess I've basically doubled it in size. And I think I'm almost done with clue 3. This section up here with the teal and the purple together is clue 3. I am using Dog Star Knits, 3 different colorways. This is One Trick Pony is this gray one. Ariel is the teal, and I believe the purple is Evangeline, I think. Like I said, no show notes, so we're testing my memory. And I am loving how soft this yarn is. I can already tell it's going to be very warm to wear. So I'm a little disappointed that I haven't finished this or didn't finish this while we still had some cold weather. But I am very much looking forward to having this to wear around in the fall. So that is my only other work in progress. And you may be thinking, Colleen, we're only 10 minutes in. You can't possibly be done with everything you have to show us. Well, I don't know if you guys are familiar with retail therapy. But since I've been studying for my licensing exam and have been a little bit stressed by that, let's just say I've bought all the yarn. I'm not going to show you everything that I've gotten since my last podcast because otherwise this would be 2 hours of us just looking at yarn. Maybe not that long, but it would be a while. So I'm just going to show you some of the highlights of what I've picked up. So, in terms of acquisitions, about twice a year, Rachel of On the Round hosts a seconds sale where she sells skeins of yarn that don't quite meet her quality standards or were not in terms of the quality of the yarn, but maybe they got some speckles where they weren't supposed to, some color from one batch leached into another, things like that, or experimental colorways, and she sells them all for half off. So this was actually, her second sale last fall was how I first got introduced to her yarn. So she had another one a couple of weeks ago, and I completely forgot about it. And the seconds sales that she does go very fast. You know, within 20 minutes, things are usually gone, although sometimes they linger a little longer. So it was about 20 minutes in when I remembered. I thought, well, there's not going to be anything. So I went to her site, and there were still some things available, and some of them I was really excited to get my hands on. So this first one, I don't know if you can see the colors properly. I'm sorry, this evening light is not doing it for me, but this was the time that I had. So I will look forward to getting back to my morning weekend recording after my exam. So this is her signature sock yarn, and it's a 80-20 merino nylon blend. And this colorway is called Ugly Duckling. It's not a regular colorway. I think she called it that probably because it was a mistake. And she hadn't intended for it to be that lime green, but I love it. I only got one skein of this, and as soon as I pulled it out of the box, I thought, oh, I should have gotten a bunch more of this. This is great. Something about this just really speaks to me. So this is Ugly Duckling. I also picked up a DK skein, 2 of them actually. This is Pixel, which is, I believe, one of her regular colorways. And part of the mystery of this sometimes is figuring out what the mistake is. There are some red spots up here, and so I'm thinking that's what that is. So this is her Everyday DK base. I picked up 2 skeins of Pixel with red spots. I have no idea what they're going to become, but also very excited to have these. And you know, she sells them half off, so basically for the price of 1 skein, I got 2. This is the way my brain's been working, guys. And the last one that I also got 2 skeins of this one. This is Whimsical, which again is one of her regular colorways. This one is on Signature Sock, and again it has some red splotches, which I think is why it ended up in the second sale. I love this colorway though, and I think when it's knit up, you're barely gonna see those. They might stand out a bit in this section where they're in with the blue, but all in all, you're barely gonna see it, and it's just this beautiful kind of subdued rainbow, which I'm thrilled about. And can we just talk about the size of these skeins? I think it's the way the yarn is plied, because it's just an 80-20 merino nylon blend, and it's 410 yards. But if I hold this up to another one, this one is a merino nylon blend and 100 grams. See the difference? It's like this skein could eat this one. Look how cute this one looks compared to this. But I think it's the way the yarn is plied. But I've worked with this base before, and it makes such a soft and squishy product that I can't wait to figure out what to do with this one either. So I guess we'll move on to these since I have them out next. I don't have an order. I'm not showing these in chronological order. I just kind of piled up a bunch of things by the chair, and I'm just kind of grabbing. So Jamie of Beautiful Mess Yarnworks did a Willy Wonka update, and so I purchased 2 skeins in that. This is Augustus Gloop, who I believe was the German child who fell into the chocolate lake and got stuck in the tube. And then I also bought a skein of Mike TV, who was the obnoxious child who, they were all obnoxious children, but the one who insisted on being shrunk down to television size. I just love these colors. She did a cute thing where she sent out little chocolate bars with each skein that you bought, and some of them had golden tickets in them, and if you got a golden ticket, you got to pick out a free skein of yarn from her shop. I did not get a golden ticket, but I did get some fabulous yarn, so that's great. I don't think I'll use these together. I just picked 2 colorways that I really liked. I really wanted to order, she had a colorway called Violet Beauregard, which was a beautiful pink and blue. But I am attempting, not very successfully, but I'm trying to diversify my stash. I realized I was doing a swap back in March, and one of the things that the gal had said was that her favorite color was blue. And I had signed up for this swap thinking, oh, I'll use something from my stash. And I went and started looking at what I had, and it was red, pink, purple and pink, pink, all shades of pink. Not entirely. I had some other stuff, but there was a very strong pink and I guess the pink family, a strong influence there. And so I have decided to try to diversify my stash, and if I see something that I like that I'm trying to decide between two and one is pink and the other is not, I'm buying the one that's not. Because one of the things that I've realized is that I adore pink. It is one of my favorite colors, and I do wear some pink. Probably the second most common or third most common color in my wardrobe after black and teal. But I don't knit with it a lot. I've done some pink projects, but when I'm picking out yarn for a project, pink isn't what I'm drawn to. When I'm picking out a skein of yarn because, ooh, I like that color, it's always pink. So then I go to make things and I'm like, well, I could use the pink, or I could go to the yarn shop and buy something else. I always go buy something else. And then my stash never gets used because it's all colors that it's not that I don't like them, and it's not that I wouldn't wear them if I knit with them. I just, for some reason, don't. So, I'm trying to pick up, that's my very long way of saying, I'm trying to pick up a couple of things that aren't pink. So I refrained from buying the pink skein. That was the point of that very long story. But if you guys are return viewers, you've probably figured out that I ramble a little bit from time to time. And study period's a little isolating, so you guys are pretty much the only people I've talked to all day. So I'm using up my words, as my dad would say. Next is a skein of yarn I did not purchase. I won this in the first go around of Ruth from Knitterarium's Year of You Cal. And she did, so she's doing one every 2 months. So the orange shawl I showed you earlier, that one was for the second 2 months. So the next one started May 1st. I haven't decided yet what I'll be knitting, or if I'm going to have time to participate in that. I'm going to try, but we'll see. I have to get through the test before I really start planning out future projects. But I did win a prize in the first edition, and this was my prize. Speaking of pink, this beautiful yarn is called Silk Moth, and it is from Green Elephant Yarn, and it's stunning. It is on a sparkle base, which I think is coming through pretty well on the screen. It's incredibly soft. And you know how yarn dyers sometimes have similar bases? This reminds me a lot of Kristen from Voolenvine, of her blitzed base. I don't think it's exactly the same. They feel a little bit different, but they're very similar. So, sorry. I'm still getting used to these new glasses, so I feel like I'm looking in weird directions. So that came to me all the way from Ireland, and Green Elephant Yarn is an Irish dyer. I believe her name is Fiona, unless I'm mixing her up with somebody else. This is fantastic though, and I would not hesitate to purchase from her. This is beautiful. And I was so excited to get that. It came in the mail right at the beginning of my study period. So it was a very nice treat to get that. So thank you, Ruth, for hosting the Cal and for sending that along. I know it's not that cheap to send stuff from Ireland to the US or from anywhere international. Yeah. So the next thing, I have a couple of skeins that sorry, let me just grab these and then I'll talk. So a couple of skeins that I acquired at the Steel City Fiber Festival in Allentown which is right in my backyard. I was so excited when I found out we had a fiber festival right here that I wasn't going to have to travel to. So I took a morning study break and went over at the beginning of April. And of course, I picked up a few goodies while I was wandering around looking at all the yummy yarn. I was pretty pleased with my self-control. I picked up this skein. Let me turn that around so you can see the label. This is from the Unplanned Peacock Studio. There you go. See that there? The colorway is called Six Swans. And I bought this because of the pink and blue together. So I'll talk more about this probably in my next podcast, but I am planning to put together a collection of one skein of yarn for each of my rotations. I don't even think I said at the beginning, for those of you who are new, I am a medical student, hence the medical licensing exam on Friday. And we start rotations in about a week and a half after 2 years in the classroom. And I have 8 rotations this year, and I want to have one skein of yarn for a project for each rotation. Just kind of sort of a memory, sort of to motivate me to make sure I have at least one project for every rotation. And I thought with the pink and blue, this one would be perfect for my OB rotation, where I am going to be delivering babies, among many other things. So there's that. I did pick up a couple of skeins that I sent off to my FiberShare partner, so I don't have those to show, but I think she liked them. I then picked up this skein of yarn from Groovy Hues Fibers, and again, see, it's kind of pink, but not completely. I don't know if you recognize the orange and brown and pink. Those of you who are on the East Coast will probably get it when I say what it's called. The rest of you will be like, what? This is called I Run on Dunkin'. And the colors are after the Dunkin' Donuts logo. And I just had to get this one because it is going to be probably, unless I find something better before then, my skein of yarn for my surgery rotation, which is notorious for its very long hours. So I will need to run on Dunkin' for that rotation. The next 2 things that I have, the last of the stuff that I bought at Steel City, are 2 skeins from Judy of Kiwi Pop, who I got to meet for the first time. Judy, if you're watching, hi! It was so great to meet you. Judy is an absolute sweetheart, and her yarns are fabulous. I saw on Instagram this morning she has some new kits out for the mystery knit-along that Joji Locatelli is hosting, starting in the middle of March, and stunning. Absolutely stunning. I'm so tempted. Not that I have the time for any of that. And I have several projects already planned, so I will probably pass on that. But if you were planning to do that and you don't already have your yarn, you should definitely go check that out, because the one that she had up this morning just was stunning. And it's on a new base that she has that's got cashmere in it, so I can only imagine how soft it is. Anyway, what I did get at the Steel City Fiber Festival was this. She calls these nuggets. They are half skeins of her sock yarn. And I didn't mention when I showed the shawl that I was doing in her sock yarn. This is 60% merino, 30% bamboo, and 10% nylon. This one is called Emily's Room. So it's 50 grams. And she says one of these is enough to knit a pair of Rose City rollers, which will likely be what I end up using this for when I finally get back to some sock knitting. The other thing I picked up is a skein of Vermilion. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. On her tweed base. I think this is coming through a little redder than it actually is. It's a very dark, I mean, pink, maybe almost mauve. Yeah, but it looks almost right there. So there's that. And this has been sitting kind of off to the side while I've been studying, and I've been looking at it because I put it aside to show on the podcast. And it keeps saying, make a sweater out of me, make a sweater out of me. I want to be a sweater. So I will probably order a couple more skeins of this, probably later in the summer, assuming she still has it available. And this may become a sweater for the fall. So the only thing that I have left to show, actually 2 things. Sorry, I lied. 2 things. Actually 3. I only bought one of these in my study period, and I just had to. This beautiful project bag is from Molly Klein Design. You may have noticed I've shown a couple of her bags. I am one of those people who, when I find a small shop that I like, I tend to keep buying over and over from them. So you may have noticed you hear a lot of the same names in my podcast. That's why, because I love what Molly is doing. And she did a Disney update. Cinderella is by far my favorite princess, so I had to. Just had to. I also picked up 2 more needle cozies for some sock projects to hold my double points. This one is the Disney Villainesses. And then I picked up a matching Cinderella one to go with the bag because, you know, can't get a beautiful bag without getting the matching needle cozy, right? There's a rule about that, isn't there? That's what I told myself when I bought it. There's the zipper. Oh. I mentioned it's been a long couple of weeks, guys. Oh, I'm so looking forward to being done with this exam. Anyway, I have 2 more skeins of yarn that I purchased, and these were purchased a while ago. This is the Woolenvine Yarns Sock Club. I showed the first, I guess, February's skein back in February. March's hadn't come from when I did my last podcast, and so here is March. This is called Gatekeeper. And I'm not sure how well the blues and purples are distinguishing because of the light. But it's absolutely beautiful. Kristen just does such a good job with colors. And again, it's not pink, so that helps expand my stash. Here I go untangling it. I'll deal with that after the podcast. And then I have April's yarn. I'm assuming that everybody who signed up for April has already received and opened and admired their yarn. But if for some reason you did and you haven't gotten it or you haven't opened it, I think I got it 2 weeks ago. So this is just your warning. This is April's yarn. This was the final installment in the 3-month club. And this one is called Tequila Mermaid. And this might just be my favorite of all 3 of them. There was no theme to this club, so it was just kind of whatever Kristen was dyeing. And this one is definitely my favorite. Yeah. So that's Tequila Mermaid. And both of those are on her Sparkle, her Blitzed base. And that was the last of the Yarn Club. So no more yarn every month for me. I also canceled my Yarn Crush subscription because I just wasn't keeping up with the projects. So no Yarny Happy Mail for a while. But that's probably a good thing because I have plenty of projects to catch up on. And the last thing I have to show you. As I mentioned, I was shopping for my FiberShare partner at the Steel City Fiber Festival because I participated in my very first FiberShare, which was so much fun. They did a great job of pairing us too. I connected really well with both of the ladies that I was paired with. It was sort of like a nice progression of life. The gal, lady, whatever, who sent me stuff was a student, like undergrad. I'm a med student, and the woman I sent to was a doctor. So it really kind of all, progression. So this was what I received from my FiberShare partner. It was all nicely packaged up in this bag, which has cuts of lamb, but then each cut is a different yarn project. I love this. I had actually seen this bag and thought about purchasing it for my FiberShare partner, and then by the time I remembered that I had thought about that, it would have been too late to order it, get it, and then send it off. So I thought it was kind of funny when I opened it up and saw that. I have to say, she hit this out of the park. I'm not going to show everything that she sent. I did post a picture on Instagram if you wanted to check that out. I got some Disney pens because everybody needs Disney pens. So I don't even know if I had posted things on Instagram like this or if I said it in my preferences somewhere. I probably said it in my preferences. I don't remember what I said in my preferences, but I love Disney and I'm a huge nerd. So keep that in mind. But she got me Disney pens. A Hufflepuff keychain because I'm a total Hufflepuff. I'm a puff. And it's got these cute little things off the side that say honesty, kindness, and loyalty. I think that's upside down. That didn't help at all. They say honesty, kindness, and loyalty, which are Hufflepuff traits. Ugh. She put such thought into this. It just made it so fun to go through. There was chocolate, which I've already eaten. And then the yarn. She sent me 2 skeins. The first was this worsted weight skein. I think it's worsted. Yes. This color is definitely not coming through. It's coming, you're seeing blue, I think, if you're seeing what I'm seeing. This is a teal. This is not at all blue. It's a dark teal. And it is actually the exact color of my winter coat. I went into my closet and dug into the back where my coat is and pulled out the sleeve and held this up to the sleeve. And it is the exact same color. And that coat is one of my favorite colors. So that's why you wear your winter coat almost every day for 3-4 months of the year. I didn't actually pick the color, but it was a gift from my sisters a couple of years ago. But if I had, I would have picked that color. So it was perfect that she sent this. And I think I may actually have a matching hat for my winter coat next year. Assuming I get around to that. But either mittens or a hat. Probably a hat because I don't have a good hat right now. My last one kind of just wore out. The other skein that she sent was from, this one, sorry, is the Queensland Collection. Queensland Collection. It's 40% cotton, 30% viscose, which I think is nylon. I don't know. 15% alpaca, 10% polyamide, and 5% wool. So it's a blend of a lot of things. This one is from an indie dyer that was brand new to me. This is Lady Pearl. You can see her logo there. This is her sock base, which is 75% merino and 25% nylon. And the colorway is called Shindig, which I didn't recognize at first, but as soon as I looked it up, it made more sense. And the inspiration struck with the yarn, I guess. It is a reference to a Firefly episode. I loved Firefly, as I think a lot of us nerdy, geeky sci-fi people did. Although apparently not enough for it to stay on the air, but we won't talk about that. So we don't talk about sad things on the podcast. So it is pink, but it's perfect. It's absolutely me, because pink is one of my favorite colors. So I'm really happy to add this to my stash. So if you haven't done fiber share, you totally should do it next time. I had so much fun. And now I have 2 new fiber friends in different parts of the country. I didn't do international because I live on student loans, so I couldn't really ship internationally, but someday I would love to do international. I think we made it through everything. I did not bring over all the yarn that I got. I have a couple more skeins, but I will show you those when I get around to those projects. So all that's left is chit-chat, a little chatter. Not for too long. I do have to get back to my flashcards. So if you don't want to hear about what's going on in the crazy world of med school, thanks for stopping by. And I will see you next time. If you do, grab a mug of tea. It's been a really crazy couple of weeks. Those of you who are good with timing may remember that I was going to take my exam and then go on the Knit for Fun retreat in Maine. And then I was going to Paris. And I was going to be in Paris all of this week. Obviously, not in Paris. I mean, my apartment is nice, but it's not Paris. It's, like I said, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. I won't get into all the gory details, but long story short, I ended up moving my exam date. So I was originally going to take it a week and a half ago on April 24th. I am now taking it on Friday. So if you are watching this before Friday, May 5th, say a little prayer for me Friday morning. Yeah, so not in Paris. We won't focus on that. I am sad that I'm not seeing my parents. That was going to be the highlight of the trip, really. Paris I like. I have only been once as a child, so I'm sure it would have been very different as an adult. But as I even told my parents beforehand, I said, you know, I like the idea of going to Paris, but really I'm going because I want to see you. And Paris could be fun. But if I were to pick a place to go, and I told them this, I said, if I were to pick a place, Ireland, Germany. I've been to Germany, loved it. I've never been to Ireland, would love to go. And as it turns out, my parents did go, and they have been pickpocketed twice. So mom's wallet and her credit cards and ID and everything were stolen. Not her passport, thank goodness. That was locked up safe. And same with dad. So my sisters and I kind of scrambled around yesterday to see what we could do from here to get them any kind of credit card or something so that, you know, they could spend money. But it all sorted itself out. Their bank was great. And as it turns out, the thieves got absolutely nothing. They canceled the cards before anything was charged. But it gives you the wrong vibe about a place. And my mom even said today she caught a kid putting his hand in her purse. So, like, the third time. She had nothing in her purse, of course, because somebody had already beaten him to it the day before. But it's just kind of disheartening to see that happening. And my parents have been to Paris several times, and their comment was the vibe of the city has definitely changed. So, as I said, I told my dad, I said, next trip, we're going to Germany. Or we're going to Ireland. So, yeah. So maybe it's a good thing I wasn't on that trip, because I have had kind of a string of not so great luck during study period. I don't know if I would have improved their luck, or if I would have been without my credit cards too. And it would have been a lot harder for me to replace my driver's license, because I still have a California driver's license, because I'm a student. And it's a lot harder to get a new driver's license when you're in school 3,000 miles away. I don't know what actual college, like, I don't know what happens. I assume I probably would have just caved and I don't know what I would have done. Didn't happen. But first day of study period, I broke my glasses. My car died and had to be towed. Not the first day of study period. Actually, the day that was supposed to be my exam date on the 24th. I got in the car to go to the library to study, and my car died. So it's been, it's been a month. I'm one of those, the glass is always refillable kind of people. But even I've kind of been like, okay, that's enough. That's just enough. But on the bright side, I needed a new prescription anyway. It had been several years since I had had one, and I'd been putting it off. And I had said to myself, I'll get a new one after study period. And then first day of study period, I was in the Wegmans parking lot, digging through my purse, pulled my hand back, and off they flew. And it was one of those moments that was like slow motion. I was like, those are going to break. Those are going to break. Those are going to break. And then they hit the ground and shattered. Fortunately, just the frames, not the lenses. So I called. I didn't have an optometrist here in Pennsylvania. The last one I saw was out in California. So I called the office of the guy that I was, thinking of going to see after study period ended. And as it turned out, they had a cancellation that afternoon. So I basically went straight there. Saw the doctor. They had a discontinued pair of frames that fit my lenses, which, as I said, were not broken. They were a little bit scratched, so my vision's been kind of blurry for a couple of weeks. But it's certainly a lot better than trying to deal with a 5 or 6 year old prescription, which was the only other pair that I had. And now I have these new ones. They're bigger than the old ones, so I apologize if you're seeing a lot of glare. I think it's partly to do with the time of day that I'm podcasting, and partly just that they're a lot bigger. So I've only had them, I guess, less than a week, so I'm still getting used to not seeing the bottom of my glasses when I look down, because I think my old pair ended like here. So I have, a good little bit more glasses than I used to. And my car has a brand new battery. The electrical's been redone. Not redone, but a couple of little parts have been replaced. So all in all, things worked out. And yeah, I will take my exam on Friday, and then we start our third year of med school on Monday. So no rest for the weary, but I'm really looking forward to it. Kind of getting out and seeing patients. First week is orientation, kind of making sure we have everything we need to be successful, or to at least maybe have some idea of what to expect. And then we start actually seeing patients a week from Monday. That's pretty much all that's been going on in my life. I am considering going to Maryland Sheep and Wool this weekend. It's not too far of a drive. I think it's about 2.5 hours. And I wouldn't be leaving from here. I'm actually having to, changing my date late. There was no availability at the testing center near my house, so I'm actually driving down to Philadelphia to take the exam, and I decided I was just going to be too exhausted to drive back that night, so I'm staying down there. So I might just get up Saturday morning and drive to Maryland. I'm probably going to make it a game day call. I wish I didn't have to actually drive. Some of the yarn stores are running bus trips, but that was just going to be a little much for me to get back up by the time they were all leaving. So if I go, I'll be driving myself. So I will be on my own. So if I do go, look for my post on Instagram, probably early in the morning with a coffee mug going, "Let's go Maryland!" And come find me, say hello, hang out. And yeah, so I look forward to talking with you probably in 2.5 weeks or so. We'll see how stressed out I am after the start of rotations. So until I talk to you again, which hopefully, I'm not making any promises, but I can tell you for sure it won't be 2 months this time. So until I talk to you again, happy knitting and have a wonderful rest of your week.